When she chooses an older man, it is never random, it is never innocent, and it always begins with a test you don't even realize you're taking. I'm going to speak to you the way no one spoke to you when you were younger. Because if you understand this, you stop chasing confusion and start commanding respect. An older man carries something younger men haven't earned yet. Emotional gravity. She feels it before she understands it. She notices how your presence slows the room, how your silence feels deliberate, how you don't rush to explain yourself. That attraction scares her because it signals safety and danger at the same time. So, she tests it, not with logic, with behavior. The first test is instability. She will introduce small emotional disruptions and watch what you do. A delayed reply, a sudden mood shift, a playful disrespect disguised as humor. Younger men react by overcorrecting. They explain, apologize, perform. An older man who passes does none of that. He notices, adjusts, and stays centered. This tells her, your piece is not borrowed from her approval. It exists without her permission. The second test is boundaries disguised as curiosity. She will ask questions that probe your limits without sounding confrontational. Why don't you text more? Why are you so calm? Why don't you get jealous? These aren't questions, they're pressure points. She wants to know if your frame collapses when examined. If you become defensive, she learns she can lead you. If you smile and answer without self-betrayal, she learns you lead yourself. Then comes the most revealing test, temptation. She will subtly hint at faster intimacy, emotional oversharing, or drama that pulls you off your path. Not because she wants chaos, but because she needs to see if you abandon your mission for desire. An older man who passes does not moralize, shame, or lecture. He simply chooses his timing. This shows her your discipline is internal, not forced. Here is the truth most men never hear. These tests are not traps. They are invitations. She is asking without words. Are you stable enough for me to rest in? Are you strong enough to say no to me? Are you complete enough to lose me and remain whole? Younger men answer with fear. Older men answer with calm. And understand this clearly. Passing these tests does not mean becoming cold, distant, or unavailable. It means becoming grounded, warm without weakness, present without attachment. When she feels that, her respect deepens before desire even speaks. If you fail, she doesn't hate you. She simply reclassifies you from potential anchor to emotional project. And once that happens, attraction leaks away quietly. This is why age matters less than embodiment. A younger man with self-command passes. An older man without it fails. The test is not your years. It is your center. She senses. This center before commitment, before labels, before promises. It is felt in how you walk away without resentment, how you listen without fixing, how you desire without need. This is the silent language that tells her she is choosing a man, not adopting a responsibility. And once she feels it, the tests intensify. Not to break you, but to confirm that your strength remains consistent. When pressure rises and outcomes become uncertain, that is where attraction stops questioning and begins trusting fully. Once she senses that center in you, the tests stop being subtle and start becoming emotional mirrors. This is where most men misunderstand what's happening and sabotage themselves without realizing it. She will test your emotional leadership, not by asking you to lead, but by momentarily withdrawing hers. One day she's warm, open, engaging, the next slightly distant, less expressive, less validating. This is not manipulation in the cartoon villain sense. This is instinct. She wants to see if your emotional state depends on hers. If your confidence rises and falls with her tone, she learns that she holds the steering wheel. And once she holds it, attraction fades. An older man who passes does something rare. He notices the shift without personalizing it. He doesn't chase reassurance. He doesn't punish with silence. He remains steady, kind, and unchanged. This tells her something powerful. Your emotional world is self-sustaining. She can lean into you without carrying you. Then comes the competence test. She will subtly expose you to moments where you could feel inadequate. She might mention another man's success. She might highlight a challenge she's facing. She might question your approach to life without directly criticizing it. She's watching for one thing only: insecurity leakage. Do you shrink, boast, explain, or compete? Or do you stay relaxed, curious, and grounded? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Women don't lose attraction to men who lack perfection. They lose attraction to men who react to imperfection with fear. When you stay composed, she feels your inner authority. When you flinch, she feels chaos beneath the surface. Another test follows closely after emotional containment. She may vent, complain, or express frustration in ways that feel exaggerated or illogical. She is not asking you to solve it. She is asking if you can hold emotional weight without collapsing or dismissing it. Younger men rush to fix. Weak men minimize. Strong men listen without drowning. When you do this, she experiences safety on a nervous system level, not an intellectual one. Then there is the power test that terrifies most men: disagreement. She may challenge your opinion, values, or decisions, not aggressively, but persistently. She wants to see if your masculinity evaporates when confronted. If you become defensive, sarcastic, or overly accommodating, she learns your strength is conditional. An older man who passes stands his ground calmly without needing to win. He respects her perspective without surrendering his own. And now comes the test almost no one talks about: the loss test. She will create moments where you might lose her approval, interest, or attention. She wants to see if you fear losing her more than you respect yourself. This is where attachment kills attraction. If you cling, negotiate, or abandon your standards to keep her, she feels the imbalance immediately. The man who passes is willing to let her walk, not out of ego, out of wholeness. He understands that desire chosen freely is the only desire worth having. And paradoxically, this willingness often pulls her closer. These tests are not conscious strategies. They are biological filters refined over time. She is scanning for stability, strength, and self-rust. Not dominance, not coldness, but calm certainty. When you pass, something shifts. Her testing slows. Her femininity softens. Her attraction deepens into something quieter, more intense, more loyal. She stops probing your frame because she feels it is solid. And that is when she stops seeing you as older. She starts seeing you as timeless. When her testing reaches this stage, it becomes less about you and more about her own vulnerability. This is where men either misunderstand the shift or retreat behind emotional armor that ruins everything. She will begin testing your consistency, not your intensity, not your charm, your consistency. She wants to see if the man who shows up when things are light is the same man who shows up when things are heavy. She watches how you respond when she's tired, distracted, or uncertain. Not because she expects perfection, but because unpredictability signals danger, stability signals safety. An older man who passes does not try to impress during these moments. He does not perform strength. He simply remains reliable. His tone stays even. His presence stays grounded. He does not withdraw affection to regain control. He does not overgive to secure closeness. He stays aligned with himself. Then comes the vulnerability test. She will reveal something personal, emotional, or unfinished from her past. Not to trauma dump, but to see how you handle intimacy without control. Many men make this about themselves. They rush to relate, to advise, to fix. What she's watching for is restraint. Can you witness her truth without hijacking it? Can you sit with emotion without needing to dominate it? Here is a truth most men never hear. Emotional strength is not expression. It is regulation. When you stay calm while she opens up, she feels held. When you flood the moment with your own emotions, she feels alone with two nervous systems instead of one anchor. Next comes the protection test, and this one is subtle. She will put herself in scenarios where she feels slightly unsafe emotionally or socially. A conflict, a boundary issue, a moment where someone disrespects her lightly. She is watching how you respond. Not if you become aggressive, but if you become present. Do you notice? Do you act with clarity, or do you freeze, avoid, or overreact? An older man who passes does not puff his chest or disappear. He addresses what needs to be addressed with calm authority. This tells her she can rely on you when stakes are real. Then there is the desire test. She will gauge whether your attraction to her is grounded or desperate. She may pull back physically or emotionally to see if your desire becomes pressure. Pressure kills polarity. Desire that breathes creates safety. When you allow space without withdrawing interest, she feels free instead of chased. And here's the test that decides everything: the identity test. She watches whether being with her expands or shrinks your life. Do you abandon your purpose, routines, and values to orbit her? Or does your life remain full, directed, and self-authored? Women are drawn to men who invite them into a life, not men who make them the life. If she senses that she becomes your center, attraction collapses under the weight of responsibility. If she senses that you have a center and welcome her into it, attraction deepens naturally. At this stage, her tests are no longer about disqualifying you. They are about reassuring herself. She is asking, "Can I trust this man long-term without losing myself?" Your behavior answers louder than words ever could pass these tests, and something rare happens. She stops trying to figure you out. She relaxes into you. Her femininity becomes less guarded, more playful, more devoted. Not because you demanded it, because you made it safe. Fail them, and she won't argue. She won't explain. She will simply feel different. And once feeling shifts, logic never brings it back. This is the level where attraction becomes quiet certainty, not excitement. And quiet certainty is what lasts. Section 4. Now the tests change again. They become quieter, deeper, and far more dangerous if you don't recognize them. At this stage, she is no longer measuring your strength. She is measuring your truth. She will test your integrity, not with moral dilemmas, but with convenience. Moments where it would be easy to say what she wants to hear instead of what you actually believe. Easy to agree instead of stand firm. Easy to compromise a value to maintain harmony. She is watching whether your spine bends when comfort is at stake. A man without integrity may feel pleasant, but he never feels safe. An older man who passes does not seek conflict, but he does not avoid it either. He speaks honestly without cruelty. He chooses alignment over approval. When she feels this, something deep in her nervous system settles. She knows where you stand, and that predictability becomes attractive. Then comes the transparency test. She will pay attention to whether your words and actions align over time. Do your promises match your behavior? Do your values show up when no one is watching? Inconsistency creates anxiety. Consistency creates trust. And trust is the soil where desire grows roots. Here is where many men fail without realizing it. They confuse mystery with secrecy. Mystery invites curiosity. Secrecy creates distance. When you are open without over-explaining, honest without dumping, she feels included rather than managed. An older man understands that trust is not built by revealing everything, but by revealing truth. Next comes the independence test. She watches how you respond when she asserts her autonomy, when she makes decisions without consulting you, when she prioritizes her life, her friends, her ambitions. Insecure men react with control. Passive men react with resentment. Grounded men respect autonomy while maintaining boundaries. This balance signals emotional maturity. Then there is the future test. She may speak hypothetically about plans, timelines, or possibilities. not to trap you, but to sense whether your vision has direction. She is not looking for certainty. She is looking for intentionality. A man drifting through life creates anxiety. A man moving with purpose creates calm. And finally, the deepest test of all, emotional honesty. She will sense whether you allow yourself to feel without being ruled by emotion, whether you can express care without clinging, desire without possession, commitment without fear. This is where polarity stabilizes into partnership. When you pass these tests, her attraction transforms. It is no longer reactive. It becomes chosen. She chooses you not because of chemistry alone, but because of character. Because your presence makes her life feel clearer, calmer, more grounded. This is the moment when she stops testing and starts trusting, not blindly, intelligently, with discernment. And here is the truth you must hear. These tests never fully disappear. Life will continue to apply pressure. But when your foundation is solid, pressure strengthens rather than cracks the connection. This is why women are drawn to older men who have done the inner work, not because of age, but because of integration, strength and softness, desire and discipline, confidence and humility. If you embody this, you stop needing strategies. You stop chasing validation. You stop fearing loss because you know who you are. And that certainty becomes the most attractive thing she has ever felt. At this stage, her tests become almost invisible to anyone who hasn't lived long enough to recognize them. They are no longer emotional spikes or behavioral shifts. They are silent measurements of who you really are. When nothing dramatic is happening, she begins testing your self-respect, not by insulting you outright, but by gently stepping into your space. She may interrupt you, tease you publicly, push a small boundary, and smile while doing it. This isn't disrespect yet, it's calibration. She wants to know if you abandon yourself to keep harmony. Men who laugh it off while feeling small inside fail quietly. Men who explode fail loudly. The man who passes responds calmly, resets the boundary without hostility, and continues as if nothing was shaken. That tells her your confidence is internal, not performative. Then comes the patience test. She watches how you handle delays, uncertainty, and things not going your way. Plans change, energy drops, timing feels off. She is observing whether frustration controls you. Older men who pass don't rush life. They understand rhythm. They don't pressure moments to deliver more than they can. This makes her feel she can breathe around you instead of perform. Next is the leadership through inaction test. This confuses most men. There are moments when doing nothing is the strongest move. She may hesitate, overthink, or emotionally circle an issue. She is watching whether you panic and force resolution or whether you allow clarity to emerge naturally. When you stay calm and grounded, she feels your quiet leadership. When you rush her process, she feels controlled. Then comes the ego test. She may challenge your competence lightly or question a decision you've made, not aggressively, casually. She's not testing whether you're right. She's testing whether your ego is fragile. Defensive explanations signal insecurity. Calm clarification signals strength. The man who passes doesn't need to prove himself. He knows who he is, whether she agrees or not. After this, she tests your emotional availability without dependency. She wants to feel desired, but not needed. She may lean in emotionally, then pull back slightly to see if your interest turns into pressure. Pressure suffocates attraction. Presence fuels it. When you stay open without gripping, she feels free and chosen rather than responsible. Now comes one of the most misunderstood tests: silence. She will allow moments of quiet, distance, or emotional neutrality and observe what you project into it. Anxious men fill silence with fear. Insecure men read absence as rejection. Grounded men allow space without assigning meaning. When you do this, she senses emotional intelligence beyond words. Then there is the alignment test. She watches whether your lifestyle, habits, and decisions match the man you claim to be. Not in grand gestures, but in patterns. Do you take care of your body, your work, your time? Inconsistency here breaks trust silently. Consistency builds attraction slowly but permanently. Here is the truth most men miss. At this level, she is not testing you to see if you are impressive. She is testing you to see if you are real, safe, integrated. A man whose inner world matches his outer presence. If you pass, something irreversible happens. She stops monitoring you. She stops scanning for weakness. Her nervous system relaxes. Her femininity deepens. Her desire becomes quieter, stronger, and more loyal. If you fail, she won't confront you. She will simply feel less drawn, less open, less invested, and you will never know exactly when it changed. This is why older men who win are not louder, sharper, or more dominant. They are steadier, and steadiness is what finally ends the tests. By the time you reach this stage, the tests are no longer about whether she is into you. They are about whether she can surrender without losing herself, and this is where everything either locks in or quietly dissolves. Her final test is not dramatic. It is existential. She watches how you handle peace. Most men think attraction lives in tension, excitement, unpredictability. That's only true in the beginning. Long-term desire lives in how a man carries calm. She observes whether you become bored when things stabilize, whether you start creating problems when things feel good, whether you unconsciously need chaos to feel alive. Men who do fail without understanding why. Stability scares them because they confuse intensity with meaning. An older man who passes is comfortable with depth. He doesn't chase stimulation. He builds connection. He allows quiet moments to exist without trying to spice them up or sabotage them. This tells her that being with you will not drain her nervous system over time. Then comes the trust with power test. She will place emotional influence in your hands and see how you use it. She may open up deeply, depend on your word, or invest emotionally. This is where weak men exploit, careless men neglect, and grounded men protect. Power without empathy destroys attraction. Power with restraint creates devotion. She watches how you speak about other women, how you speak about people who can't benefit you, how you behave when no reward is attached. Character is revealed in moments without witnesses. She feels this even if she can't articulate it. Next is the resilience test. Life will apply pressure, stress, distance, misunderstandings, external problems. She observes whether your core collapses or holds. Do you become reactive, cold, or withdrawn? Or do you remain emotionally present without dumping your stress onto her? A man who can carry weight without making it her burden becomes irreplaceable. Here is the deepest truth. At this point, she is no longer testing you for attraction. She is testing you for safety in the future. She is asking herself questions she may never say out loud. Can I relax here? Can I grow here? Can I trust this man? With my heart, my time, my softness? Your behavior answers every one of these questions without words. If you pass, her attraction changes form. It becomes quieter, steadier, more intentional. She stops playing games. She stops scanning for exits. She invests not recklessly, deliberately. If you fail, she doesn't punish you. She protects herself. She pulls back emotionally, slowly, respectfully. And no amount of charm brings it back because the decision happened beneath logic. Understand this clearly. Women do not test men to control them. They test to feel safe choosing them. The older man who understands this stops resenting tests and starts passing them naturally. And here is the final lesson. You cannot fake this level. You can only become it. No line, no trick, no strategy replaces self-respect, emotional regulation, purpose, and inner stability. When you embody those things, you stop feeling evaluated. You start being chosen. Now, I want to ask you something personal. When a woman pulls back or tests you, do you move closer out of fear, or do you stay grounded in who you are? Be honest. Write your answer in the comments. If this message hits something deep, like the video, subscribe to the channel and share this with a friend who needs to hear it, especially the man who keeps wondering why attraction fades without explanation.